Another query from the weekend, Christian. The Pies had 15 consecutive scoring shots against Port Adelaide.
Yeah, that was wild.
Watching that game, I just thought, well, 15 consecutive scoring shots. It just seems like a lot. We see goal streaks often, but overall scoring shots without the opposition scoring a single behind, it just seemed like it was a lot. So we threw that to you as well, but it had actually happened already this year.
I was the same. I looked at it and thought, yeah, that's got to be a lot. I don't remember the last time that's happened. And then found out it happened in round 0. Gold Coast had 18 consecutive scoring shots against Richmond. So I think Shai Bolton kicked the first goal of the game, and Gold Coast had the next 18 scoring shots.
And then Richmond came back.
Yeah, well, almost, yeah. The Magpies 15 is the second most this year, but it's sort of, to have at least 15 shots in a row, again, going back to 99, 48 times it's happened. The most consecutive shots in the row, don't have the game in front of me, but it's 21. 21's the longest consecutive shots in a row.
Geelong, Melbourne?
Could have been. Everything comes out of that game.
Very funny. Every team's played 6 matches now, so we're finally on even and level pegging. We know where every team's at. We've all played the same amount of games. So we thought it'd be a good time to now take a look at expected scores and maybe have a look at the expected scores ladder, see how that marries up with the real ladder, see which teams are unlucky, see which teams have been lucky, which teams are the most accurate, which teams are the least accurate. The same for players as well. Christian, where do you want to start with this? And maybe firstly, for those listeners who don't understand how expected scores work, how is that all measured up?
Yep, so expected scores are just looking at every single shot you take across a game, and taking into account where on the field you are and how much pressure you are under, in terms of what the opposition is doing to you at your point of kicking it. Yep. Taking that shot at goal and averaging that out and comparing it to every other shot at goal from that exact similar spot with similar pressure, or going back to 2010.
So hypothetically, me, you, and Jake have a set shot, 45-degree angle, 15 metres out, the exact same set shot.
Yep. We'll all have
I kick the goal. Yep. You both kick it behind, because it's probably what would happen anyway. So that would be 8 points. Divide that by 3 as an average, and that's the expected score for the next person who takes that same shot.
Yep. And expected scores does roll. So if the next 10 people come along and miss that shot as well, then the expected score will go down even further, and your score recorded from your first kick 10 minutes ago will go up and boost it up, saying, well, that kick, even if it's 10 weeks later, that kick is now looking more accurate than it was at the time. So, we'll probably start with the ladder, but as I said, by round 20, this could slightly change a little bit because teams just get more accurate through the year, or less accurate. So we did have one instance, I know a few teams looked at it. There was one team that looked at it in round 19 one year, and they had 2 more wins than they were expecting. And 2 weeks later, they gave us a call up and said, now we've gone down to 1 more win than expected, but nothing's changed. What happened? It was a 1-point margin on expected accuracy, where, again, the expected accuracy had changed so much that 1-point margin that they were expected to win was now a 1-point margin they were expected to lose, just because more people had taken shots from a similar spot and we had a bigger data set. So it can change, but I just thought maybe just the quickest way to start is just to give you the expected scores ladder top 8. So looking at,
so let's get the real ladder
up. At the end of a match, you might finish with 90 points versus 80. Expected scores will say, well, the score should have been 93.2 to 80.1. So we're using that as your real score, giving you a win-loss and a percentage.
People always say, oh, expected scores, who cares? It's about the real score. But I think it does give you, it's one of the best guides as to how well a team is.
I'm 100% with those people. It all comes down to the final score is one that matters. But when you're looking at it and trying to analyse a game and trying to find, again, a simple question you might want to ask is, did we play that game well?
The most important thing is, the scoring.
If you're inaccurate, as I said before, with the end result of a game always working out for itself. If you're inaccurate in front of goal, you didn't deserve to win. But
if you can create enough shots at goal where it's saying, well, you should have won that game by 20
you can take something
points.
away
You can
from
take a huge amount out of it. And that does fluctuate from week to week, the accuracy.
So you'll get a game where you don't have the expected scores, you might have lost clearances, so you got to work at your clearance game and you go, oh, we've lost by 10 points, so we'd really need, and clearances were negative 10. But if you actually look at the expected scores and go, hang on, we actually got plus 20, and a lot of those shots were from clearances. We don't have to work on our clearance game. So it can sort of help you refocus on what the areas are that strengths and weaknesses. But as I said, we'll just quickly run through the top 8. So if your team's not in here, again, apologies, but you're in the bottom 10. But expected top 8, Port Adelaide should be number 1.
Port.
There you go.
They're actually 5th at the moment.
They weren't expected to win the weekend, were they?
Should they have won all their games?
No, they should be 5-1. So I'll get to it soon. But the Melbourne Port Adelaide game earlier this year was one of the biggest swings within unexpected scores this year. So Sydney 2nd, who are actually 2nd. Bulldogs should be 3rd on expected scores, just in the top 8 in real life. GWS 4th, Geelong 5th.
Yeah, I was going to say a lot of the numbers really do kind of reiterate the Bulldogs aren't that bad.
No.
Yep.
I think this is about the 3rd week in a row we've had something where the Dogs have rated quite high.
Yeah, we did the premiership standards last week where they're sort of ticking a lot of the boxes. So as I said, Geelong 5th, Carlton 6th, Collingwood 7th, and Brisbane 8th. So they're the two names that sort of stand out to me. Collingwood, Brisbane struggling, got last year's grand finalists, but again, looking at straight expected scores, still be in the top 8.
Did you say Geelong?
Geelong are 5th.
But you didn't have Melbourne in there, did you?
No. So Melbourne is, again, if you want to sort of turn our attention to the luckiest teams, if you like. So which teams are getting results going their way. So Melbourne expected results this year. They should be 3-3 with a percentage of 91.6%.
Wow.
They are actually 4-2 with a percentage of 118.5%. So we talk about percentage being a really good indicator of have you won the season or lost the season. Expected scores, as I said, 91%. They're a fair way behind for the season on expected scores, but so far.
That's a lot of percentage. Is that? Well, it would be both, right? Technically, the other team
should have scored
more.
Yeah, and them being above.
Yeah. So if you look at the biggest sort of flip in a game this year. It was the Port Adelaide Melbourne game earlier this year, so it was. Just got the number here. It was a 39-point turnaround for both ways. So again, it might have. I think it was Melbourne scored 25 points fewer than they were supposed to, but Port Adelaide also scored like 16 or so.
14.
Yeah, it was. I think it was 39, so 14 more points than they were supposed to score. So yeah, you could have some games where it's just you're inaccurate and the other team scores on average and you lose. But this one game, I think it was round 3 earlier this year, was, as I said, Melbourne just wouldn't miss a shot, and Port Adelaide couldn't sort of turn one into a goal. So Melbourne are one of the luckiest teams in terms of expected record versus actual record. Geelong are another one. They could be 4-2 on expected scores, but obviously sitting as the only undefeated team. So Adelaide, I think were expected to beat them with their 66 entries a few weeks ago, where Tom Stewart almost broke the record for intercept marks. Adelaide were actually ahead in that for expected scores, and I think Bulldogs was the other one in gather round. Essendon, they're currently in real life 4-2 with a percentage of 92.7. They could be 1-5 with a percentage of 85%. So the percentage doesn't change too much, but they've had a few close results where, again, with the Adelaide game, Adelaide expected to win that one, and
their percentage probably suggests that right now. Anyway, they've got the lowest percentage in the top 8 currently, but they're lower than Brisbane and Collingwood, who aren't in the top 8 currently.
I don't think anyone would expect them to stick around in the top 8. For too much longer.
They're putting some form together, so I don't know. I'm sort of coming back around to Essendon.
Well, no, I don't, and I mean I think that kind of sums it up really for me. That just reiterates what I think.
Stuttering to start the season, but as I said, the areas they needed to fix, they've started to work on that in the last 2 games. So sort of put Essendon on watch to see if, similar to what Carlton and Giants did, they know what the issues are in front of them, whether they can get that fixed and turn it around. Again, as I said, for 2 weeks worth of data, Essendon's starting to turn things around. If you want to look at the unluckiest teams, so as I said when I went through the ladder, Port could be first on the ladder. They expected scores-wise, so from where they're taking all their shots, they're the only team to be expected to be scoring over 100 points per game, but they're not. Sydney and Giants are the only 2 teams that are actually scoring 100 points per game. So Port, could be number 1 on the ladder, are currently 5th.
So would the club come to you guys and get this sort of data and...
They get it.
Would it give them some sort of solace and confidence, saying, "Okay, we lost to the Pies on the weekend. We're 4-2, but you know what? We are actually doing a lot right. We've got to stick with what we're doing because we should be on top of the ladder."
Yep. I can only assume that most clubs will be having someone look at this every week. I do know that some clubs. So the problem with this is our pressure numbers are about 2. So everything we do is live.
Yep.
Except for pressure is something that we're about 2 minutes behind. So when someone kicks the ball, someone is tagging what foot they're kicking with, what pressure they were under, what the target were they kicking to a leading player contest. So that information just takes a little bit of time. So usually we're about 2 minutes or 3 minutes behind on the kicking pressure stuff. which comes into expected score. So we do know a lot of clubs that as soon as a goal's kicked, they would love to get that number and say, we've just conceded a goal from a spot where it was 10% accuracy, so we don't have to worry about, But unfortunately, it's just the one stat that's about 5 or 6 minutes in delay. But again, from the amount of queries that we're getting from clubs about, hey, how live is this data? We know it's definitely being used, not just post-match, but it's being used in the coach's box. So we sort of tell clubs, if you give it till about 2 or 3 minutes at a quarter-time break, that's when we can guarantee that the expected scores are exactly right. But yeah, for the next 2 or 3 minutes, we don't actually have the pressure on each shot. So it's just a little bit in delay. But as I said, from the amount of queries we're getting about how quickly they can look at expected scores, I think it is getting into the coaches' boxes during the match. So
what about players? Who are the most accurate players and who are the least accurate players when it does come to this?
Yep. So the easiest way to sort of wrap up, for me, the most accurate players is for every shot that you take, you've got an expected score from it. As I said, there's expected accuracy, which is 40% of the time you kick a goal. Whereas it's also as you said, from the example that you used from all of us taking, for 3 shots and getting 8 points, you end up with whatever that is, 2 point, some big decimal number to sort of get the exact expected scores from that. So you're just looking at, if you kick a goal, you get 6 points, you might have expected to get 3, so you'd be +3 from just that single shot. So just collating your whole season together, Bailey Fritsch is +30.2 points. So he's basically kicked 30 more points than expected this season, and I think we've championed Bailey Fritsch for 3 or 4 years. He's just been so comfortable and so compact in front of goal. Is one of the best set shots to watch. Shea Bolton, another good one. He kicks some freakish goals.
He kicks some freakish ones, but he does miss some easy ones.
And I think the missing of the easy ones hasn't happened yet this year for him. So I think he is still just kicking the hard ones. He's +29.7 points he's kicked this year. Cody Waitman third. +26.3, and then Josh Kelly sort of surprised me, +20.6. So he's sort of the early midfielder there. So being able to get forward and from limited shots at goal to be at +20 points, and then Josh Tracy for Fremantle is +18 points, and then we'll go to the flip side, the least accurate. And I could probably guess this one without even looking at the numbers. Charlie Cameron, to me, has just missed some shockers, set shots going back to round 0 and nearly every week since. So he's -25 points this year, clearly the worst. And your man...
And someone, sorry, I was just going to say, someone you would have expected to almost be on the other list a couple of years ago.
Yeah. He was quite accurate from set shots 3 years ago, I think. But your man second, least accurate, is Toby Green. I think you might be touching on him in 6 points this week. But... looking at different areas of his game that dropped off, this is another one, -20 points
Very surprising.
in front of goal. So we know he hasn't kicked many goals this year. I think he kicked 5 of his...
Kicked 5 in Gatherone against Gold Coast, 9 total. So you take that game out, it's 4 goals. Yep. 4 goals for the year if you take that one out.
His accuracy hasn't helped either. Jamari Ugle-Hagen's -18 points. Charlie Dixon, -17 points. And Vandermeer at the Bulldogs is -15 points to round it out.